Hello, everyone. This is Tijen Genco, Master Certified Coach and Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. You are tuned into Coaching with Mastery and Elegance with Tijen Genco. And these are the special series I'm doing about the masterful coaching and inviting the masterful coaches to the conversation. And today, I have such a pleasure to host another masterful coach, and Fogolin. Ann and I actually are both mentoring in the UT Dallas Executive Coaching Program. Welcome, Ann. How are
Thank you.
you?
I'm well, thank you. And thank you for the invite, Tijen.
Of course, and it's such a pleasure to have you here. So, Ann, how would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Such a great question because we have so many different labels, if you will, that we can apply. Let me share. I'm a wife of 44 years. I'm a mom of three adult children, all older than I am because I'm delusional and happy at 28 years of age. I'm a grandmother of a beautiful little girl who's almost 8 months old. And I offer all of that first and foremost because family is the most important thing in my life. And it allows me to do the work that I love. And so from that perspective, who am I from a coaching perspective? So yes, I'm an MCC. I assess at all three levels, the ACC, PCC, MCC, and I mentor to all of those levels as well. I've been very blessed with opportunities from ICF to be part of the PCC group that put those markers together 5 years ago, part of the ACC MCC bars. I know you did a lot of work with that too, Tijen. We did the resource guide. Do a lot of work with the assessor groups, both from the credentialing side as well as the coach education side. So very involved with the ICF. And that has always been a real significant piece for me because the more I'm involved, the more current I am, the greater the likelihood I provide the most current and accurate information to anyone that I am mentoring, coaching, supervising. So that's from a coach education perspective. And then my own clients are usually executive leaders, and they can come from just about any walk of life. Just another one today, a young woman, oncologist. What do I do when I grow up? I thought, well, just never grow up. But what do I do? Where do I go? How do I impact the world? And so, those types of conversations are so fulfilling. So, multifaceted, as are we all.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful introduction. And thank you also laying the foundation of about the mastery in coaching we're going to get into soon with your rich background. I appreciate that and appreciate you being here. So, from all those perspectives, how would you describe the mastery in coaching?
Hmm. I have to tell you honestly, I struggle with that word mastery. And what I mean by that is, for me, mastery usually means that we have reached a pinnacle of some sort that would suggest that, there isn't too much more to go. And for me, getting my MCC was now the real work begins. And so it was the finessing of the skills along the way. More importantly, it's the embodiment of what this mastery of whatever it might be. In our situation, it's coaching. What's the embodiment of what an MCC is? What's the embodiment of masterful coaching? How is it that one would recognize that? So, what are the skills? What are the behaviors that are demonstrated that would suggest mastery? So I know I'm not really answering your question and I'm not trying to be evasive in any way. I think that there's a certain level that we get to that demonstrates this fluidity and artistry that we talk about. And for me, there's still so much more.
Absolutely. And I had a discussion more than once with Meryl Moritz about it. And um, I think that her perspective was that finding a way to practice coaching outside of the formulaic way of that's being introduced. And that's one way she talks about. Often I actually don't even get there because I like to teach masterful coaching from the beginning. I don't teach people unhealthy behaviors to get them to dissolve later on. But what came to my mind when you were sharing your perspective, the artisan bread makers, there is that
Yes,
functionality and then added personal artistry
yes,
that still can be mastered further or
yes,
expanded further, but that's
yes.
the arrival of that maybe self-confidence or becoming, without the age reference, elders in the community that holding the space in that way.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. It is very much and so the language of the competency resonates, the embodies a coaching mindset. It's the embodiment of what is it that this individual is demonstrating and continuing to finesse that would suggest that they have reached a certain level of mastery, a certain level of experience, expertise, of being the elder, if you will. And then what more is available to them, because they
Mhm.
don't stop. It's not like they stop to learn. It is the continual exploration, the growth, the development, the desire to continue to develop. And so that too is a huge piece of mastery for me.
Yeah, and thank you for getting us into that discussion because we were talking about earlier the I still don't like that term in English mindset because it only refers to the mind for when we were describing the competency as the human being as a whole.
Yeah.
So, but how do you actually see the mastery in demonstrating of the coaching mindset in coaching?
So if I were to look at this from a perspective of in coaching, I am the instrument. And so how do I take care of my instrument so that if we'll use this metaphor, so that it plays the most beautiful music possible, that it is in key, that it is constantly being challenged to go further, to do more. This whole embodiment of what coaching is meant to be is not just what I think, but who am I? What do I do? How do I be? I know this is coach speak, and it is a combination of all of that. And so, how do I take care of my instrument? How do I ensure that my instrument is properly tuned to who my client is, what my client needs, what is being required of me in this situation? So it's the invitation, the requirement, the mm, boy, there's a word I'm looking for. You want to talk about that brain, that mindset that's not there. Ay, ay, ay. What is it that's really required of me so that I am bringing my very best to each and every situation, to each and every client, to each and every session? How do I make sure that I am tuned, attuned?
Hmm. That's a very comprehensive and interesting definition and aspects of the competency you're bringing forward of self-care, self-calibration, and self-flexibility of the self to different environments to be with. I often say that even if you don't understand the client's language, just go with it. Don't translate it into yours and then ask client to speak. So these are interesting aspects and part of the competency you're speaking about. I'm also interested in about the mindset as the unwavering presence.
Mm-hmm.
An awakened presence to the self, the cognition of the self, maybe cognitive distortions of the self, and I think that's the adjustment to the client you're talking about, and finding the best possible response of the moment requires.
Exactly.
What would you like to say to that?
If I may, I'm going to continue using this metaphor, if I may, as to the instrument, and I think it's heightened for me. So music is a big deal for me, Tijen. It's a big, big deal. I know that mindfulness and meditation is very important in your life. Music is huge in my life, and I had the privilege of attending the Toronto Symphony last night, and the performance was Handel's Messiah, which is one of my favorite pieces of music. And it wasn't just the soloists or the choir, it was also paying attention to the symphony. And so when when we first came in, the members were there warming up, making sure things were okay. But then, as things are ready to start, the first violinist comes out and she made sure that everybody was in tune. It was her job to make sure everyone's in tune. And then it was about being ready to provide the audience with the most spectacular experience possible, which meant that each and every one of those individuals was present and tuned in to who they were, what their part of was in the music, to make sure that they were performing their very best, to make sure that how they were in sync with everyone else, paying attention to what the conductor was doing, but all in unison. And all of this for me is really truly about this notion of what is it that I'm required to do? So what you talked about, what we with some of the aspects of this competency, one of them is that reflective practice. So what am I doing? How do I make sure that my instrument is tuned? Who do I have that helps me make sure that I'm in tune? So for me, that might be a mentor coach, a coach supervisor, could be a therapist, it could be who knows what it is. But how am I making sure I'm in tune? And then how do I make sure that what music I play is going to be exactly what the client needs, is exactly what the other person is needing right now. My responsibility is to keep this instrument as tuned as possible, as limber as possible, as focused as possible. What is required of me to play this music the way it's meant to be played? All of that is part of this particular competency for me. And I know I'm coming from a very abstract position as just sort of how my brain works, but this competency is exactly a metaphor for me.
Well, it is, and it's a beautiful metaphor you're using. By the way, I also have a musical background, but so I can add to your metaphor about universal harmony and harmonic music, which you're bringing forward as the orchestra, right? It's not what my coach decide as a response in that moment, not only to the response to what client is saying, but whatever else they're picking through their instrument, which I call it holistic listening and holistic response.
Yes.
And so in attunement and being in tune with the rest
Yes.
of the existence and maybe rest of our parts, right? Sometimes.
Yes, yes. And you can see, you can witness just how engaged and immersed each of these individuals are as you watch because their facial expression, they're so in the performance that nothing else exists. And so for me, there's that whole presence piece as well, that I'm so attuned and attentive to what's happening in the moment. Nothing else matters. And so that too is a part of this, I'm going to use that term, the mindset. It is very much part of how I show up. Nothing else matters.
Yeah, full presence, right? Don't we always hear as mentors, like, how do I finish the competencies by paying attention to the client?
Mhm. Are you listening?
If you're thinking about how am I gonna complete the competency demonstration, you're missing the show.
And isn't that a sad statement that you could miss the show? Yes.
Absolutely. That's what I say. You need to be like watching this turtles that come out of the shell with full attention because you will miss it
You
otherwise.
will. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what will help you, or what is your practice and in tuning and in tuning your instrument as a practitioner
Yeah,
and a
that's a great
mentor?
question.
Yeah.
So on a daily, and I say this, and my clients know in any classes that I teach, they're very aware of that. They'll often come on and music is playing. So as I said, music is big for me. And so music will go on between sessions typically, and it really depends what my mood is. I could start the day with, I could be Messiah this morning. It could have been Pink, somewhere in between. It could be the Beatles somewhere later on. It could be country. What is it that strikes my fancy? And it allows me to close what just was,
Mm,
allow myself the space to prepare for what is about to be.
mm,
And that has been such an important practice for me because I think what happened was, especially through COVID, Tijen, if we did any, I used to do some in-person work, but so that gave me travel time. And so I would have music playing. When I was just from home at that point, there wasn't any time. There was travel time was from my office into the kitchen.
mm,
And what did that mean? And so the music seemed to fall off, and I could feel like something was missing. And
mm,
that was it. So what I began to do, and it was actually through a coaching session with a mentoring client. I needed coaching, they needed practice, and this is what really came out of that. And so this was implemented. It made a huge difference. There's one. Two is that I continue to want to learn and grow. So I take courses. I do work with a supervisor. I have a mentor coach. I get feedback on what it is that I'm doing. Am I still at that level? Was this really MCC? Because I'm telling you, I'm not MCC every day. No matter how much in tune I think my instrument is, sometimes it squeaks pretty loudly. And
mm,
sometimes it's brilliant and I never know why and what made the difference. But so I work with people who will give me honest feedback to say, this was really good. This could be better. This needs finessing still. So I do engage in the reflective practice. I do engage in ongoing learning. I just finished the Enneagram training last week. I don't know how I feel about it just yet, but I am finishing the training and I'm going to do the certification. I like to be stimulated. I like to learn. I like to grow. So the ongoing learning is there. And I have become much, much better at asking for help when I need it. Boy,
mm,
I'm really struggling with such and such. Have you got half an hour? It was a couple of weeks ago, and I reached out to my coach and said, I need time. When have you got time? And, he made time for me, and we had the conversation that I really needed to have a safe place to have a conversation. And it was brilliant. So, but those are things that have happened over time
mm,
that I've really leaned into, where before I kind of thought I could do it all by myself.
mm.
No.
What a beautiful arrival, right? Recognition of what type of help one might need and recognizing those moments, finding right partnerships,
Mhm.
and finding, I think it's even in the music, you're talking about the partnership with the music to
Mhm.
tuning you into where it needs to be tuned into. And even in that partnership, finding the at least interesting. You will define later on that whether it's the right partnership for the knowledge, but at least some level of interesting thing for you to find and practice. That's beautiful to hear. And there is also, I think, maybe it was included in your expression, but I think there is also a concept then finding, recognizing our relationship to the world as a coach,
Mhm.
how we're relating to the moment, to the client, to the um, additional learning, and so on. What might you say for the people who tuned into this and want to develop that relationship awareness and the relationship itself?
What I can offer is that for me, I think it was a growth and development process. As I just suggested, I was never one to ask for a whole lot of help, and recognizing that asking for that support from others really was a gift, not just to me, but to others as well who wanted to be able to support. But that's a mindset shift. That's
Mhm.
a real, it was for me a mindset shift. And so then to recognize that, to not have to wear the responsibility of, was a big deal and continues to be a big deal. And I want to say that it is the development of the strengths that we have that support us to recognize that it's not just maybe in the world of work, but then how are these strengths then things that we can transfer into other areas of our life. And I think that's been one of the big things too, Tijen, is that any coach training, any development of thought processes is not only applicable to what we do as coaches, but certainly will permeate all aspects of our lives. So my coach training absolutely allowed me to become a much better coach, a much better mentor, a much better supervisor. And as we led off the conversation today, family is so important. It was a much better opportunity for me to parent my children in a way that might have been very different than perhaps could have been. Um, with my husband, we know that there's a no coaching zone with significant others. Sometimes it's more successful than others, but I'm not going to go there. But
I, yeah, go ahead.
it did absolutely impact how I parented my children. I volunteer at a cancer center for people that are going through cancer journeys, and they themselves and the families. And so, how I offer support is much more from a coaching perspective rather than telling people. I do a lot of listening, and I often hear from them, wow, this is so different from what I've experienced before. And they're very appreciative of that. So that part of it, I've done bedside hospice training, and that they just want to talk. They want someone to listen. They don't need anybody telling them what to do, and especially in their final days. And so this has permeated. It's not just in my work as a coach. It's a piece of the fabric of who I am because all of those threads have been impacted by the coach training.
Yeah.
Again, this might be an ambiguous answer to the question. I feel like I'm going off on tangents. You're getting a real feel for how my brain works, my friend.
It's beautiful. And the thing is that the self plays multiple roles in life. And so then what you're really bringing forward, the impact and the resonance of the coach training into those roles
Yeah.
beautifully. And I think that I see coaching as an advanced communication skill more
Yeah.
so than a profession. I mean, yes, we do that, but I don't we all need to pay money to somebody to listen to us properly?
Yes. And sometimes some of us pay multiple people. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's beautiful to hear of that. So anything else that I may have not brought forward here in the coaching and the coaching mindset that you feel in your heart that you wish to share?
I think there's just one phrase that I'd like to offer those that are listening. This is through the vertical leadership development course that I completed out of the IOC, excuse me, and the instructor is Jan Ryback, and what she offered in there, and this is her term, so I will absolutely give credit to her, but I loved it, the MEO meter.
Mm.
And I love the terminology of that. How much of me am I bringing into my conversations, my relationships with my clients? And for me, it's about not that I'm setting the agenda, not that I'm leading a client, but how much of me am I bringing to this relationship? I would hope it would be all of me. I'm bringing all of me to you, all of me to this session, all of me to this relationship. But it doesn't mean that I have to be leading it, telling you what to do, directing it. None of that has to exist. So that meometer has 100% or it's a 0%. 100% I'm bringing myself to you, 0% that I'm telling you, choosing, directing, any of that, but I'm in partnership. So I offer that language, the meometer. It just resonated so strongly with me that I'll share.
Mm, lovely. And it's it is the same, but it's slightly gonna sound different to the audience, and I will explain. Often my prayer before the sessions is that let there be no me. Whatever the client needs come to and through me. So
Right.
that doesn't mean that I'm an empty being, but I am fully present and in
Exactly.
a state of allowing
Yes.
to whatever needs to be happening
Yes.
into the moment. So,
Yes.
lovely,
Yes.
lovely. So, Anne, thank you for this beautiful conversation.
My pleasure.
And if our audience is interested in finding you and working with you, how would
Yes.
they go about doing that? And anything of your offering you wish to share?
Thank you, Tijen. So, yes, the website is www.becauseimatter.com, and because is spelled BECU. We call it Z in Canada, ZIMATTER.com. So, becauseimatter.com. And the email is my name, Ann Fogolin at becauseimatter.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, and so would be happy to have you reach out. As far as offerings, I have a few speaking engagements this next coming year, 2025, but they're specifically for different organizations. So I don't feel like I'm really at liberty to offer those to a general public, but certainly if there's more that people are interested in, please feel free to contact, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, and you offer the coaching, mentoring,
Yes, supervising,
supervision,
yes,
absolutely, and
assessing,
assessing.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So here you go, everybody.
It's a one-stop shop.
Absolutely. And thank you for this lovely conversation, Anne. And those of you are tuning into later, maybe if you missed in the beginning, this is Coaching with Mastery and Elegance with Tijen Genco, an original podcast from Genco Coaching. In order to find out more of the offerings that we do, you can check in with tijencocoaching.com. We will present the links that we spoke about today's show in the show notes. And if you like what you heard, consider subscribing and giving us feedback. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Tijen.